What's up, everybody? It is January the 10th, and it's Friday. And you know what that means? That means Scott's favorite song that we play on the air.
Oh, yeah.
Love it. We are going to be partying on the show today. A guy that will not be partying until he gets out of traffic is Dave Lochran, a.k.a. Laufey D. But we do have Scott filling in, and also want to wish our buddy and normal Friday guest, Mike Leone, a good time in Carolina. He's going to go watch some playoff football. So I guess any place is better than Buffalo, upstate New York this time of year. Right?
It's got to be, right?
Is there a lot of snow in Chicago?
Yeah, it snowed again last night. It was free. It was so cold we couldn't even come in the office on Monday and Tuesday. It was like -20 and it felt like -50. And then as soon as it started to get warm, it just snowed a bunch again last night.
I had a friend I saw post on Facebook. Here we go. Let's add this guy. But he said, snow, just what we needed. So,
sorry, fellas.
It's okay.
Got stuck in the middle of some unforeseen circumstances. I'm out of breath, but I'm here. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry because I got your videos mixed up. But we have Dave with us.
I'm here.
And Dave got stuck in traffic. Was it, do you think it's any sort of political figure that caused you to be in traffic?
Yeah, I was coming back from New York, man. It was difficult. I was getting a haircut in New York, so it was tough.
Your hair looks, it looks very nice.
Thanks, man. It was worth the 7-minute delay.
Very well groomed, and I must say, a lot better than Scott or Oh man, I'm jealous of Scott's head of hair. I'm jealous. It's funny because like in your early 20s, you notice guys like with a lot of muscles. You're like, I'm jealous of that guy. You get closer to 30, which 4 days I will be. You start looking at guys with like really nice heads of hair, and it's like, oh, I want those follicles on top of my head.
Scott, this might be your time to just end the call while you can get out of it now and just let's be done with this.
Oh, gosh. Well, let's talk about probably the biggest news so far, and that is Drew Holiday being out tonight. Stress fracture on his left fibula, or is it fibula or tibia?
It's part of his leg. That's all that matters.
So
yeah, I think it's tibia. It doesn't really matter.
So obviously Brian Roberts is going to be like the top value play tonight. It doesn't hurt that he's shooting guard eligible a lot of places, but you also have Tyreke Evans. And Scott, I'll let you go ahead and talk about the usage rate of Tyreke Evans when Drew is out, because I know you want to drop that dime, and Mike Gallagher on Twitter kind of stole that from you, I saw. He's speechless.
Sorry, it cut out on me a little bit there.
I said...
I think we lost him.
Yeah, I think we did
sorry.
too.
Cut out.
So, basically, the stat was that he has a 31% usage rate when Drew is out. That means there's going to be lots of Tyreke love. And I assume that both Brian Roberts and Tyreke will probably be the two heaviest owned players tonight. Agree or disagree, Dave?
I think, yes. I mean, if we're referring to FanDuel, especially where Roberts is 3,500, and Evans is cheap as well. But, I mean, I understand the usage rate, and that does speak volumes to an extent. But at the same time, I'd feel more comfortable going with Roberts just because I know for 3,500, I mean, especially last year, when he was starting in place of Grievous Vasquez, this guy had some 35 fantasy point games. He might have even had a 40 fantasy point game. He's very capable of paying off 3,500 or even doubling that tonight. Tyreek Evans, on the other hand, I like him, but I don't love him. That position's weak though, so it wouldn't be a bad idea to go with him. I think he's 60 something, 6,600 or something like that on FanDuel. So yeah, I like him, but I won't have him in every lineup now.
All right, Scott, are you there? Can you talk about your love for Tyreek Evans now?
Yeah, I like Tyreek Evans a lot tonight. Not only the usage rate, but with Drew out, that's 35 minutes they got to split up, and they can't really play Roberts. I mean, I just don't see him playing into the high 30s. I think he's going to be right in the low 30s there, which leaves a ton of minutes for Tyreek and even Eric Gordon to pick up some. I do agree with Dave that Roberts is by far the must-play of the two. I think you can do other things than just play Tyreek Evans in every lineup. I love usage rate. That's probably like my most used stat, just because, especially when I'm trying to factor in guys that are going to get minutes bumps, like I'm expecting Tyreek to. He's been in the low 20s over the last 3 games on average, it looks like. And I can't see a way he doesn't get, at the very least, in the high 20s to the low 30s tonight. And if he's getting a usage rate in the 30s when he's on the floor and he's playing 30 minutes, I mean, you saw what he did when he was playing 30 minutes every game when Gordon was out last time. I think some people are kind of tying him just directly to Gordon, but I don't think that's fair to either Gordon or him. So it just, with the price on Tyreek coming back down after the 3 like really rough games over the last like 4 or 5 days here, I think he's just has a nice price and a ton of upside. So he'll probably be on like 2/3 of my rosters if I had to estimate like how much I'm going to use him.
Yeah, so you're going to be using him 66.7% then. That's your usage rate for him.
That is correct.
Math. That's what we call math. Dave, your thoughts on the whole Eric Gordon thing? Because like both these guys will be in the majority of my lineups. And Eric Gordon, do you think that's someone that we should be kind of scared of, leery of, if he gets the hot hand there in New Orleans?
No, not at all. And here's why. Eric Gordon's more of a shooter. I mean, he's capable of giving you, a handful of assists here and there. But when you look at Tyreek Evans, he had a handful of games there where he flirted with triple doubles. I mean, this guy had 4 or 5 straight games where he flirted with triple doubles. So, like, when you refer to the usage rate, this guy is going to have the opportunity, to easily, and I won't say that he will, but he easily has the opportunity tonight to reach double-digit assists, maybe 8 rebounds and 20 points. So he's a different style of player as Gordon, and players such as Gordon aren't really my cup of tea when it comes to daily fantasy, because the lack of peripheral stats kind of hurts their value, in my opinion. And Tyreek Evans has proven that he has no lack of peripheral stats when he's been hot this season.
Very good points. I mean, just the fact that we talk about the positional value of that shooting guard and small forward spot, the fact that you can plug Roberts in, like you said, Dave, he had some great games last year when he was the starting point guard, and tonight looks to be another decent shot for him to really, where he's minimum salary most places, really achieve value. So definitely looking at him. And Tyreek Evans, he's like in that kind of middle tier, the sweet spot for salary. And, I think that both those guys will have an easy time reaching value. So those two are like probably the core guys I'm putting my lineups in around, and then kind of building around them. Other games and other news to note, the game really, and Dave, what you wrote about today is Philly. They're playing against Detroit. So on the cover of your article,
I like that. I saw that.
We had Drummond, Jennings, and Monroe. Basically everybody but Jay Smoove. But he also is another option.
He is. So is Stuckey. They all are.
Man.
They all are. Every single one of them, Dave.
You had me until Stuckey.
Don't make me bring up the Atlanta Hawks, man. Tomorrow's going to be a surprise, or next week's going to be a surprise for you. I promise you that much. So maybe we should just agree today and keep yourself out of the mud.
Yes, for those that missed it last week, I did lose a bet to Dave, and because of such, he will be purchasing something for me to wear on the show next Friday. It was supposed to be
Forever 21 or Limited 2, whichever you prefer.
Just have to make sure that it covers all the areas that it needs to cover.
We'll take care of that.
That's all. That's all we need to make sure of. You have me scared now.
You should be terrified.
As far as this game goes, Drummond, the highest upside guy on this Pistons team, you think?
Yeah. Did you see what he did to Philadelphia last time they played? And he did so in like 33 or 34 minutes. And he totaled 71 fantasy points on DraftKings, and that's with him only hitting 33% of his free throws. I mean, I think he hit like 7 of 21 free throws on the night. You imagine if this guy hit 15 of them? I mean, he's likely not going to do that. But you're looking at 80 fantasy points. It's just the upside is insane for Drummond tonight. And I think Greg Monroe at 6,500 on FanDuel. I'm going to refer to FanDuel a lot because they have the king of the court going on. He's another one. Brandon Jennings at 7,300. I'm a little worried about the turnovers because Michael Carter-Williams, is a thief, but it shouldn't even matter. He can put them up. And one more thing, in one game that Brian Roberts played 30 or more minutes this year, he put up 34 fantasy points.
Good stuff. We love stats. We love stats on this show. Scott, your take on this Detroit game. Are you playing anyone from the Philly side, or are you sticking to
Michael Carter-Williams is one guy I'm going to play from the Philly side. He just has so much upside, and no matter what happens, he's going to end up right around like 30 fantasy points, which is something I always really like in 50-50s and stuff like that. As far as the Pistons go, obviously, I don't think you're going to find anyone that doesn't love Drummond tonight, which means he's going to be like 80% owned on every site probably. But I like Josh Smith a ton, and I almost never like Josh Smith even a little. So I'm going to unfortunately have more Josh Smith tonight than I've probably played all season. I don't love Jennings. I think there's a lot of point guard options that I like tonight, and I don't think I'm going to spend on Jennings. Just Michael Carter-Williams gets kind of a bad rap. I know Dave mentioned that he's a really good steals guy, but he's been doing a pretty good job on some of these point guards. Like, everyone played Rubio against the Sixers the other night. I know that game was a blowout, but he held Rubio to 22 fantasy points while the rest of the team went crazy. I think he's the only guy to hold Isaiah Thomas under 40 fantasy points in I don't even know. He's been going 40 plus in almost every game except like that Miami game, and Carter-Williams did a good job on him. I know he has a huge height advantage on him, but he's playing a lot better defense than people are giving him credit for. And the season-long stats include a lot of games where Tony Roten just gambled against every point guard, and guys went nuts. So I don't think – go ahead, Dave.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say I warned people about that Rubio the other week too because he's a lot worse at home. I mean, if you look at his home and away or on the road, if you look at his home and away splits, they're polar opposites, not even close. So I think Carter-Williams is playing better defense, but still, when you consider the pace that they play at, I think even with defense, they're still going to give up 110 points, if not more. So, yeah, I think Carter-Williams has been playing better defense, but at the same time, I think Jennings is still a good play just based on the pace alone and being able to rack up 15 assists. And I'm going to go out on a limb. I think Andre Drummond's going to be owned in around 50 or less % on FanDuel tonight, only because the center position is stacked. You have DeAndre Jordan against the Lakers. You have Anderson Varejao against Utah. You have Dwight Howard against Atlanta, and you have Cousins against Orlando. And I'm pretty certain that a lot of those guys will find their way in the lineups. Drummond's my favorite for his price, but there's a lot of other guys out there at a really solid price that I think that'll be in a lot of lineups.
Yeah, I have no arguments with that on FanDuel. I think that's 100% correct. But anywhere that has like multi-position eligibility, I think Drummond's going to be up over 70 because you can play Drummond and Cousins or Drummond and one of those other guys you mentioned. And you got to think that like most people are going to go Drummond and one of those guys over like Varejao and Cousins. So
no question.
I agree with you, especially in GPPs on FanDuel. There's going to be a lot of different combinations with the strict positions there. Because I love Cousins also tonight, like you mentioned. He's a great play. Bergeau's another one. There's one other one I'm overlooking too. It's a center there, and I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Noah against Milwaukee.
I do like Noah. I'm a little worried about the sickness, but I mean, every time they ask him questions about, are you going to play tonight? He always has a huge game. So I mean, I've stopped doubting him when he's a little hurt. So Dwight's another one with a great matchup. I mean, there's a lot of good centers tonight. I just don't think that you can find the price upside that you get from Drummond like anywhere else. It's just crazy. And Drummond's on like a 5 double streak also, so it's not like he's been playing bad.
Yeah, look what happened last time he got hot.
Yeah.
Dwight is back in Atlanta, where he grew up.
Oh, look at that.
Also, you need to know that tonight is Kemba's bobblehead night. And Napster Man wants you to know that as well.
Where do you see this? How do you find this stuff?
It's research, Dave. Research.
Yeah, I research. I just don't type in Google, who's bobblehead night?
Most of the time, it's like the official accounts or the beat writers. They'll mention it.
I guess
I just count on Napster Man to let me know.
Yeah, exactly. We should have like a stat or just a page dedicated to Nap finding out all the bobblehead nights and all the like playing at home every time Westbrook's like playing in LA, that sort of thing. But that Rockets Hawks game is going to be a decent game. Paul Millsap is a decent option, I think, for Atlanta. I noticed him on DraftDay. What was his price on?
His price is way down.
Yeah, it's 12.9, and he didn't have a really good game last game. But this is a game where he could have a decent game, and going to be a fast-paced game. So getting back to the whole Josh Smith thing, I'm with you, Scott, where it scares me how much I'm probably going to have Josh Smith tonight. And I've had him multiple times this year. However, like sometimes have been good and sometimes have been bad. We talked about, Dink talked about on Wednesday how Philadelphia is like the worst at guarding the three-point shot and how C.J. Miles just exploited that. I'm wondering if Josh Smith is like seeing that stat and just like salivating. That's what scares me, is that he's just going to settle for a lot of open.
Josh Smith is salivating about taking 3-pointers just by seeing a game on the schedule tonight.
It's true.
Josh, yeah, he's been watching Joe Johnson and C.J. Miles film against Philadelphia, preparing himself for this one. They hit like a combined 22 3-pointers, man. That's unbelievable.
So, but this is the kind of matchup that he kind of thrives in. So it's going to be a good game to have exposure to, definitely, with the highest over-under of the night. And being in Philly, it's only a 2-point spread, and the over-under is 215. So it's going to be a very high-scoring game, as is this Clippers-Lakers game. Darren Collison, the one place I really saw him as DraftKings, where his salary somehow went down.
Unbelievable. It's 4,700.
It went down from 5,800 to 53 after a 41-point game, then went from 53 to 47 after a 32.
Yeah.
Have you seen Kyrie Irving? He's 6,900. I mean, it's
and
unreal.
Is that real? I didn't even see that yet. I haven't looked at any salaries over there yet.
Yeah, he is 60. He is 6,900.
Oh my gosh, Kyrie!
I know. Against Utah, and DraftKings says they take matchups into consideration. Well, they missed this one.
Man,
so, as far as the news in this Clippers-Lakers game, J.J. Redick is going to play tonight against the Lakers. So that's interesting. I would probably still stay away from him his first night back. Let him get some of this rust out of the way. But going forward, without Paul, he's definitely a decent play. Tonight, though, I'm just kind of staying away from him. And if I had any sort of thought process about rostering a guy like Jared Dudley, I'm not now. Like that, he kind of takes away any sort of value from Dudley or even
Do you
Barnes.
think though? I think you take Jamal Crawford.
Yeah.
Have you had a lot of thought processes that led you to Jared Dudley this
I have.
season?
Unfortunately, too many. He did have a decent game last game. It was the game before that I took him at. He did not have.
He had a huge game. He had a huge game. Look, I'm not gonna lie. He's 3,500 on FanDuel, and with Redick, if Redick wasn't gonna be back, I actually considered him. It's the Lakers, man. Anybody can do anything against the Lakers. At 3,500, you're telling me Dudley can't give you 25 fantasy points against. He could give you 2 fantasy points as well. I get that.
That's my point.
Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah,
exactly.
I don't disagree that he could get you 25, but the fact that he can play like a 20-minute stretch without scoring any fantasy points just
with
disgusts
4 turnovers.
me.
Yeah. So frustrating.
7 points on the night. I hear you.
It was like watching Jay Crowder the other night. Just stand in the corner.
God.
It's so
It's
frustrating.
Better than watching Francisco Garcia not play.
Oh yeah, and Garcia. Man.
Who was it? Brewer?
Those were the worst. This is Dudley's stat line, though. This is the DraftDay player profiles that they have. 39 fantasy points last game. 14, then 9, 15, 33 before that. That just kind of goes to show you how inconsistent he is. So probably talked a little bit too much about Dudley, but you mentioned also Crawford being affected by this. For sure. I don't think this changes Collison's value though at all. So especially on DraftKings where he is 4,700, and there's so many point guards that are shooting guard eligible, and there's small forwards that are shooting guard eligible. I think that Collison's kind of a lock. He's going to be one of those 80 to 90% players there on DraftKings, which is kind of a shame because they only have 8 roster spots. So I hate when there's a lot of overlap on 1 or 2 players on DraftKings or Draft Street, because it means basically you're already playing like a roster player less than the conventional site. So you're playing like 7-on-7 or 6-on-6. So you have to get those guys exactly right if you're going to win that game. So that's my thoughts on it. I want more players. Scott, you talk about doing all sorts of games there at Draft Day. Give me a game where you can play like 12 players.
All right, I'll construct it for you later.
Okay, good. That was a lot easier than what I thought it was going to be. I was expecting.
I mean, it doesn't take very long. If you can get people to play it, I'll put it out there.
He really dove into that one.
I was expecting some sort of pushback, but that just goes to show you the people at Draft Day, they care about what type of games you want over there. As far as this Lakers team, Nick Young was supposed to be limited last game. He was limited to only 36 minutes. WTH.
You're a witty man, Dave.
I mean, he was definitely displaying the swag. I was all in on Meeks, and Meeks did have a pretty decent game still, but Young was just it didn't look like his back was bothering him at all. And maybe he was helped by the fact that Meeks got 2 fouls real early, so he could go in there and still warm. But your thoughts on any of these Lakers players against the Clippers? Oh, and before, the obvious play is Blake Griffin also, the power forward against Lakers, because they struggle so much against power forward. So that's kind of the obvious play. We'll get that one out of the way. But I want to go to the Lakers side and what you think about this roster. Scott, I'll start with you, and then Dave, you can follow.
I mean, I've been playing a ton of Kendall Marshall just because they don't have anyone else to play point guard, and he's locked into 40 minutes. He struggled. Yeah, I mean, I really don't have a problem with it when I know I'm getting 40 minutes from him. And if he's shooting halfway decent, I mean, he's in the first 2 games he played, you saw the upside that he can make value on like 6K on DraftKings or 11K on Draft Day. He really struggled shooting last game, or he had a pretty solid game. He had 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and a steal. If he's shooting 5 of 10 in a game, he's probably going to get you 30 to 35 fantasy points just on volume. That's really the only guy I'm targeting in that game, just because I like the consistency I'm getting from him. Like, I'll take 22 points if that's going to be the worst game I'm going to get from you. But that's not really a tournament play for me, obviously. Jody Meeks is okay, but his price is going up too. Wes Johnson's pretty cheap. He'll probably play close to 30 minutes. Nick Young's not a guy I play a ton just because all of his value is from points, and I don't play guys like that very often. Gasol's okay, but if that's a blowout, I'm a little worried about his minutes. I don't know. How do you guys feel about Gasol tonight? Because that's the one Laker that I'm like going back and forth on whether he's worth it or not at all.
I think the Bobcats are giving away Kemba Walker gnomes, by the way, not bobbleheads. Just to clear that up a little bit. I think Pau Gasol, the way he's playing recently, it's really hard not to like him. But when you're looking at the same price range as a lot of the other high-end power forwards, he's not nearly as appealing. But my God, has he been great or what lately? I mean, the guy's putting up 40, 50 fantasy points on lock every single night. And he's just, I don't know, maybe he's playing angry. But whatever he's doing, he's playing well. And
Yeah.
Actually, he struggled against the Clippers in recent years. But this year he had a decent line against them, and he really didn't come on until just a couple of weeks ago. Really, he hasn't been having the greatest season up until recently. So I don't think you can go wrong with playing in the night. And look, there's really not much home court advantage for the Clippers. So I think this game will, and without Chris Paul, I don't want to say it'll be close, but I don't think it's going to be, like a disgusting blowout by halftime either.
Yeah, you look at Powell's game logs and 43, 40, 49, 61, 35. I mean, but look at his past 4 games. I mean, he has been the sole option there since the new year, and has done really well, and hasn't really showed signs of any sort of fatigue. I mean, 36 to 37 minutes is what his average is. So unless something happens, knock on fake wood, that he's going to get those minutes. And against DeAndre or against even Blake, he's going to get rebounds. He's going to get assists and steals and then points. I mean, he's kind of touching all the different categories. He's a cerebral player, but even watching him the other night, he was fun to watch. I mean, he's just so smart using his body around the basket still. So I don't have a problem with using Powell at all tonight. But there are a lot of big men options. I mean, that's the only thing. Even DeAndre Jordan on the other side is going to have. Could have 5 or 6 blocks tonight. So you're talking about just a bunch of different options, and so the positional value for power forward and even center is smaller than what it normally is, it seems like, tonight. So that would be my take on it. As far as this Magic Kings game, Vooch is going to be, he's not on the trip with them. He was sent home, and so he's going to be out the next 3 games at least for the Magic with the concussion. Tobias Harris, another one of those maddening players who it seems like every odd quarter he goes off. Every even quarter, he takes the night off. However, 37 minutes last game,
How do you know this
which
stuff?
is a good sign. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
His
he's
price
a
is
draft
down,
day
too,
player,
which is
right,
nice.
Scott?
What was that?
He's a draft day player.
He is. That's right. I mean, 37 minutes last game. He's going to play a lot tonight. You got to love the matchup. Price is way down. There's really nothing you can argue with about Tobias Harris tonight. It's like it's set up perfectly for him to be played a lot and have a pretty good game.
Go ahead, Dave.
Here's what you can argue. 7 fantasy points 4 days ago. That's what you can argue. 32 minutes and 7 fantasy points. I mean, the guy he's cracked 30 fantasy points twice in his last 10 games. He's cheap, but the upside is not there like it was last year. And even with, I don't know, I know Vucevic is out, but I don't like him at all, man. I don't trust him at all. I think you can find better options out there. You can get Greg Monroe for slightly cheaper on a bunch of sites with such an awesome matchup. I don't see. I guess he's a decent play given the matchup, and I guess what he has potential of doing. But in my opinion, he's someone I'm staying away from tonight. He's not even on my radar.
I think he's going to be on my radar at what his price is. I think he's a high upside guy, especially in those big
Is he?
GPPs and qualifiers tonight. that he could be like one of those 1 to 5% owned guys that gets 35 to 40 fantasy points easily. So I will have him on at least one or two teams across the industry. As far as those other guys, people ask about Big Baby, Jameer, Oladipo. Those guys, what are your thoughts on, Dave? Are you comfortable with any of them? I mean, this is the Kings that they're playing against. This is not.
No.
This is not some defensive stalwart that they're only going to be scoring 80 points. I mean, they're going to score over 100 points. Someone has to do something tonight.
No, look, Dave, I'm not arguing that they're going to...
You are arguing. Stop it.
I'm not arguing that they're going to put some points up, but there's nobody that's really appealing to me. You got Glenn Davis, who will likely finish with 25 fantasy points. You have Tobias Harris, who, I mean, I know you state that the guy has upside, but if you can show me a game where he's exhibited some of that, I'd be happy to take a look. And then you have Jameer Nelson, who, if you trust him, you're insane. Even though it's a good matchup, but you can't trust the guy. And it was just the list goes on and on. Even Aaron Aflalo, who started the season off great, is another one of those guys who can disappear on you. They might put 100 points up, but if no one's carrying the bulk of the load, you're just wasting fantasy points. And look, you guys apparently like some guys in this game, so maybe nobody should listen to me on this one, and I'll stop now. But no, I'm not on Orlando tonight. I think they get their asses beat, actually.
I'm only on Tobias, really, out of this game. I mean, we just haven't seen enough of him to say that there's not upside there, especially enough of him when you take Vooch's 40 minutes out of the game. That would be my counter-argument to that.
But you know what, Scott? There's downside.
Yeah, there's definitely downside. But, I mean, did anyone on the Magic do anything in that Clippers game? Their second unit just got blown out of the water by the Clippers in the early second quarter in that game, and I don't even know, I don't know. I agree with you that there's definitely downside there, but, you mentioned Greg Monroe. You can get Tobias Harris for $2K cheaper on DraftKings. You can get him $3K cheaper on DraftDay. You can get him a $1K cheaper on FanDuel. I think I like Greg Monroe tonight also. I'm gonna alternate those guys basically as my cap saving power forward probably. So I have no argument with Greg Monroe there. And I just love anyone going against Jason Thompson because I think Jason Thompson's terrible, but that might just be my personal opinion of Jason Thompson. So,
no, I mean, I definitely agree. I mean, that Clippers game was absolutely terrible. You look, we'll just have to call that, just one of those random outlier games where they just were not on at all, and most of them sat for the entire fourth quarter. But Jameer, 40 minutes last game, 42 fantasy points, 17 points, 10 assists, 5 rebounds. And it's not like tonight's matchup is going to be any worse than what that Portland matchup was as well. I mean, I guess the one thing you can say is this is the third game in 4 days or 5 days on the road. So maybe that is how you want to spin that play, Dave. But Jameer Nelson on DraftDay is under 11K, which is not bad at all. And FanDuel, I think, is at 55 or 57, and is a perfectly fine play over there too, especially if he matches Wednesday's performance. So quit hating on the Magic. I mean,
I'll take Trey Burke over Jameer Nelson.
Okay, and I'll take Michael Jordan over Scottie Pippen. I mean,
what are you talking about? No, you cannot use that comparison. I'm talking about realistic options here, Dave. I'm talking about Trey Burke being 5,700 and Jameer Nelson being 5,700. And even though Trey Burke hasn't been great lately, I'd still take him over Nelson. That is a perfectly reasonable comparison, and you completely insulted me with this nonsense.
All right. Okay, on places like DraftDay, he is one of the top options because he's under 10K. So I would agree that I would take Trey Burke over Nelson. But you're acting like Sacramento is going to shut down these Magic players, and I'm telling you, it's just not going to happen. This is going to be an up and down game, one that you want to exposure to. Isaiah Thomas, DeMarcus Cousins, both on the table for the Kings. Cousins and Drummond both have that kind of beastly upside, as does Dwight, especially on like FanDuel, where you are locked into that position. As far as this Jazz game, we can go ahead and transition to there. Gordon Hayward was a game-time call. Have we seen any news on him since then? Because that kind of changes things.
No, but if Gordon Hayward's out, I think Trey Burke's almost a must-play. His usage rate is going to be insane if Hayward's not playing.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
Agree that he and Favors just by process of getting more shots and being used more would definitely be options. And maybe even, I don't know, who would fill in for him for the most amount of time? It wouldn't be Jefferson, would it?
No, because Jefferson's already starting at small forward, right? Wouldn't it be?
Yeah, you got to think
Alec Burks.
Yeah,
Alec Burks.
It would have to be Burks because unless they push Jefferson to the two. Yeah, I mean there's just not a lot of options. There. So Burks would definitely get the biggest bump. And Dink says being used more would be similar to an increased usage rate. Good analogy, Dave. I don't know if he's talking about me.
He's talking to you. I didn't mention usage rate.
Okay. Let's see. People want to know about Dang. So let's go ahead and discuss Luol Deng. If he plays, are you willing to play him? I am not.
I am.
You are.
Also.
At 6,100 on DraftKings, I'm a big fan of the team debut. And I don't know. I think that against Utah, he's the kind of guy that doesn't need 30 points to really meet value. This guy can give you, 18, 8, and 5 or something like that. On DraftKings at 6,100, you really don't need much from him at all. And I think that's a really, really good price, like a great price for him tonight. And you know he's going to see big minutes. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays 40 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned, he's got a really fantasy-friendly game. That's the biggest thing. He played like 29 minutes in his last game with the Bulls and put up 38 fantasy points. If he's at all healthy, I mean, he's like the closest thing to a lock for like a fantasy point per minute as anybody in the league.
Yeah.
He does everything. Like even if he's not like the focal point on offense, he rebounds well, he passes well, he plays good defense. Like, you got to think that if they traded the picks away for him and they're going to pay him this money, that they're going to just, especially since they have nothing committed to him after this season, there's a really good chance, like Dave said, that he plays 40 minutes every game for the rest of the year.
He's like a rich man's Andre Iguodala in fantasy terms.
Yeah.
He'll give you all this. He'll play the same way, but he'll give you more, stats in each category, and he's more consistent. When he's healthy, like Scott said, he's really consistent. Like, you're not going to find a guy much more consistent than him when he's healthy playing 38 minutes. 38 minutes.
Are we sure, though, he's going to play 40 minutes? I mean, his first game out, that would be a major question mark for me.
Anthony Bennett, is that who we're worried about?
I mean, no, we're definitely not worried about Anthony Bennett.
I watched the beginning of that Sixers game the other night, and Earl Clark shot a turnaround fadeaway like 2 minutes into the game, and he was out of the game so fast.
Earl Clark. You also have to remember that he's playing on the same team as Dion Waiters. Recently with the Bulls, he was kind of the focal point, and you've got a lot of different options around him. So I think his fantasy points per minute is going to go down. There in Cleveland. Not saying that he's not a good play, especially if he plays 40 minutes, but I'm just going to probably hold out on Dang tonight, where we're just not sure. I mean, that's the bottom line.
If it's in pace of play between Cleveland and Chicago. Chicago is one of the slowest. Do you know, Scott?
Cleveland's slightly higher, but I don't think that that's like saying a whole lot.
Not like he's going to Philly.
No, I mean, Cleveland plays a little bit faster, I guess, but the ball stops with so many guys there that's going to hurt him
Yeah,
too. But like Dang was a pretty good fantasy player when he's playing with Derrick Rose shooting 25 times a game.
right,
So
exactly.
I'm not overly concerned about it just because of all the other stuff he does. But like Dave said, like I mean, it is the first game. The price isn't like a must play, so I don't blame anyone for not playing him. But I think he's a pretty good tournament play tonight because I know like a lot of people are going to be off of him because it's his first game.
Okay. Well, you've talked. Then I'll agree. I'll agree that he's a tournament play. So, congratulations, Dave. You have talked me into tournament play status for Luol Deng. As far as some of the other games, you have the Bobcats against the Timberwolves. The T-Wolves, man, really put that K-Love high floor test. Basically shattered that test on Wednesday. K-Love ruined a lot of my teams. Basically every
4 for 20.
team except Draft Street, because he was so expensive and he just didn't perform well at all. Are you expecting a bounce back game against the Bobcats?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be less owned than he should be tonight. Um, the price isn't like insanely high on DraftDay or DraftKings anymore. He's come down a bit because of that game. Well, he's just always cheap on DraftKings, I should say. But I think he's down from like 21K to 18K on DraftDay, which is a great price for him. I'm going to have him a lot just because he just has he can score 70 fantasy points, and there's maybe one other guy that can do that tonight.
Yeah. Kemba Walker, it's not like bobblehead night in Minnesota, is it?
That's what I was wondering. It's the games in Minnesota. I was going to ask you the same thing. I got sidetracked by the Gnomes.
We'll have to find out. I mean, that's weird unless he's like from Minnesota. You don't see opposing teams doing
No, he doesn't
handouts.
seem like a Minnesota guy either.
I feel like Knapp has kind of betrayed
Provided
us
us with false information.
with the information. Gnome Night is the 22nd and 14th. So there you go. Some questions in the chat. Tyreek and Turner or Meeks and Smith on FanDuel. I guess that's Josh Smith.
I'm actually going to go with Tyreek and Turner. I know that sounds a little crazy because of how bad Turner's been playing over 2 games. But mind you, they came off of a 6-game road trip. They just came off of beating Portland in Portland. They went 4-2. Then they come home. They get 1 day off, and then they play back-to-back games. They were tired. They've had 2 days to rest. Detroit is terrible against small forwards, absolutely terrible. And I think Turner should have a really good game tonight. And I think he's an awesome GPP play because there's going to be so many people that are scared of him. I think Turner's a nice play. Not a lot of people are on him tonight, but it's hard not to like Smith. The thing is, they're both just as volatile, though. Like, Smith is just as prone to collapse on you, even in a good matchup. So I think if that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and look at the second half of that pairing and say Jody Meeks or Evans. And although Meeks has been consistent, very consistent, Evans is without question the higher upside play.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Roberts on FanDuel, Roberts and Evans need to be in your lineup. I don't have a problem with Turner at all, so that's why I would go Tyreek and Turner also. At only 7K on FanDuel, I don't have a problem there. I think Meeks and Smith is definitely the more risky of those two plays. Scott, agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree with what both that you said.
Scott, Kemba or Jennings on FanDuel?
Man, I love Kemba, but I think you got to go Jennings in this matchup just for the pace.
Mm-hmm. Jennings is actually playing significantly better basketball on the road, too. He's averaging 19 points away from home and 14 points at home. His shooting percentage is terrible, but still, he's shooting almost 40% from behind the arc on the road, and that says a lot against the Philadelphia team, like you mentioned earlier, that really struggles to defend the three-pointer.
Blake or the Brow?
Blake.
Scott?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Blake. The only way I wouldn't is if Anthony Davis is a little bit cheaper. More than a little bit cheaper, I should say.
Yeah. Anthony Davis came on a little bit at the end of last game, but I think Blake has all the upside in that matchup, so that's not even a question for me. Let's get to this rapid fire from DraftDay. Also, Scott, I saw something about a high roller draft game tomorrow on DraftDay. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah, we're going to try and run a 215 5-man snake draft for the NFL games this weekend. Not quite sure who's in it yet. I think Andrew's working on that a little bit more than I am. But it should be at 1 p.m. We're going to try and make it viewable to everyone. I don't know if we were thinking about talking to you and seeing if you could do it on a show like this, but we might just save that for basketball one of these Wednesdays coming up. Yeah, I don't have a ton of details on that other than it's going to be like a 5-man 215 snake draft for the NFL games. But if you haven't tried the snake drafts yet, come try them out. We'd love to hear all the feedback on them, like I mentioned Wednesday.
Yeah, and what are you doing on a Saturday, really? Nothing. So why not just get in a high-stakes snake draft and have a little bit of action for those NFL games? That's what I like to say.
Exactly.
That's kind of like my
they're fun
motto.
For this weekend because you don't have to worry about the overlapping plays too much. Like it's really tough in some of the football games this weekend to get running backs and everyone not drafting Marshawn Lynch and stuff like that. So the snake drafts are kind of fun with the shorter slates. I played one last night for NBA when there were only 2 games. This is the only game I played, and it was pretty entertaining. So,
Blake Griffin or Anthony Davis? We just answered that with Blake Griffin. That is the first question in this. So we're all on there. Steph Curry or Cousins?
I'm going Cousins in this one. I like them both, but I like Cousins a lot.
I'm going Cousins as well. So we're all on that. Josh Smith or Paul Millsap?
Ooh. I think Millsap because the upside is a little bit greater tonight, being that Josh Smith is going to be contending with Jennings and Monroe and Drummond. And when you look at Millsap, who's he going to be battling? Like Perot, Antich? I mean, that's it, by the way, Dave. It's Antich.
Oh, yeah. No, trust me. I know about the Antich now. And I do not have any cream for it. He has been playing great. Has a smooth outside jumper.
And that's really not something you can rely on.
Yeah.
As a center.
It's not. It's going to be interesting to see that matchup against Dwight tonight. It might bring Dwight away from the basket a little bit.
I think that Antich is just going to see a lot less minutes. I don't think it'll affect Dwight. That's just my opinion. I don't think you can take him out of that game, if he's getting pulled away from the basket. But that's just what I think.
Gasol or Dwight?
Dwight.
Oh, man, this one's a tough one for me, but I will go with Dwight back in ATL. And by the way, I'm all in on Millsap as well. Wesley Johnson or Brian Roberts?
Feel free to chime in, Scott.
No, Scott can't because he's the one who created the game.
Oh, he did? I wasn't listening. I tuned out for a minute. All right, give me the last one.
Wesley Johnson and Brian Roberts.
Oh, come on. Brian Roberts.
I feel like this might be the easiest rapid fire ever. Ever. So, if you haven't played the rapid fire, do it now because I guarantee you after the show, Scott's going to be making some changes and creating some booby twaps. So, if you want to just make a quick $18, enter at least that DraftDay rapid fire and submit what we just talked about. I mean, those just go all right. And 3 out of 5, free $18, then play that and some of the other tournaments that they have. The Worm, the Target games. They also have
Big Shot Bob today also.
Big Shot Bob. Yeah, still there's a little less than 30 roster spots for the Big Shot Bob. But
I've always meant to ask, who creates those names?
It's kind of a team effort. I mean, they evolve over time, so honestly can't tell you who created some of these. It was before my time, but I named most of these double ups in here at the start of this year, and I love most of them. Especially Rubio Tuesdays is my personal favorite.
That's great.
Man, you should let us pick a name. I love cheesy stuff like that. So,
yeah, and that's actually in our hockey promotion this year. In that Ice Throne game, if you get first place, you get to name a hockey game for the next calendar year.
Oh,
I might have to add that into the NBA promo also.
Do they get assigned 8x10 by some model?
I can't. I don't have that one for you this year, Dave.
Is she not a part of the promotion?
No, she's not. She's
good. That's all I have to say about that is good.
Rubio Tuesdays.
She was not a wholesome girl. That's all I have to say.
Great.
So, as far as questions, let's do lightning round. And people, if you have questions, ask them in the chat, and I'll say a name, either Scott or Dave, and you guys answer it real quick. Crawford or Reek? Dave.
Which Crawford? Is there only one plan? Sorry. No, which Crawford?
Let's assume it's Jamal.
Tyreek. You set me up there, Dave.
We're so far behind now. Verjao or Teague? Scott.
Verjao.
Tyreek versus Dragic. Dragic going up against the Grizzlies, but man, he's been playing so good. Give me Yeah, give me Dragic. He looked really good the other night. Burks or Roberts? Dave.
Burks. Alec Burks?
Yeah.
Roberts.
Millsap or Zebo? Scott.
I like Zebo a lot tonight.
Love him.
Yeah, against the Suns. Makes sense.
He killed them last year for like 70 fantasy points in a game.
For what it's worth,
he had
though,
20 and 15 in the first game this year, too.
For what it's worth, give me Zebo, though. That's just saying for what it's worth. Not worth very much. Kyrie, Collison, or Thomas? Pick two, Dave.
Kyrie, Collison, or Thomas? Collison and Thomas. That's hard. I'll go Collison and Thomas, but it all depends on price. Irving's so cheap on some sites. Sorry, I rambled a bit, Dave. You knew it was going to happen.
CDR or Brian Roberts? Give me Brian Roberts all day. I'm just not. Someone asked about Brian Roberts as a punt play. I don't think tonight you need him as a punt play unless there's a specific site that he's like minimum salary, an efficiency site like Draft Street. Aminu or Carroll? Scott.
Carroll. He's just been better.
Teague or Jennings? Dave.
Jennings.
Crawford or Meeks or Gerald Green? Give me Crawford and the upside that he brings there. Smith, Monroe, or Drummond?
Ooh.
Scott.
I got to go Drummond in that one.
Beat the drum.
Dave?
Drummond.
Okay, I'd go Drummond, Smith, and then Monroe. Howard or LeBron? Wow. Crazy that we even have this question. Scott.
I'll stick with LeBron, but man. I'll stick with LeBron.
Yeah. LeBron safer. Howard, go for the upside, I would say.
It's a strange question. I mean, wherever they're priced that closely to each other. I haven't seen it yet.
I had it in rapid fire this morning, actually, and there were more people on Howard than LeBron.
Ah, good to know. A little inside info. Very nice. KCP or Roberts? All these questions, just assume that it's Roberts for me and for the other guys. We're all in on Roberts. Wall, Irving, or MCW? Scott.
I love MCW.
Ditto. Jennings or IT2? Dave.
I like them both, but I think Thomas is safer here. I like Thomas.
Josh Smith or Zebo? Scott.
I'll go Zebo in that one unless it's a tournament where you're trying to just get 70 points out of somebody.
Ditto. Zebo safer play. Josh Smith would be the guy that you hope goes for 50 fantasy points tonight, but Zebo definitely the safer of the two. Sean Livingston as a point guard punt, ? Sure. Don't have a problem with that at all. LBJ plus Varejao or Cousins plus George. I think that has to be Cousins versus George. Let's see. Wes Johnson or James Johnson, Scott?
I like James, assuming Tony Allen is out.
He is out.
He is out for sure?
They said he was out for a week, and that was just 2 days ago.
I missed that the other day then. So, yeah, I'll take James Johnson then.
I like him as a GPP play. The upside there is really, really nice. If he plays 30 minutes or even 27 minutes, like he could give you 35 fantasy points.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our good buddy Dink says in the chat, give me Johnson. I'm guessing he's not sure what he's talking about there. Powell or Zebo? Man, these Zebo questions are coming in. I really wasn't too prepared for all the Zebo love.
He was under the radar, but I like him.
Yeah, give me Powell. Let's see, Lee or Millsap for cash games, Scott?
I think it's got to be David Lee. He's just been so good.
So good. That's Scott's and I was trying to call you a Valley Girl, but the words just weren't coming out of my mouth. They just were not getting there.
Wasn't meant to be.
Let's see. Lee or Gasol? Dave.
Gasol.
Dink says, do you think an All-Johnson team wins the KOTC? Probably
He's
so.
on a roll, man. He's on a roll.
Marshall or Collison, Scott?
You all right over
that's
there?
Tough. That's tough. I would probably go Marshall.
Dave, I want to get your take on this.
I like Collison against the Lakers, man.
I
just think there's a little more upside there. I know Marshall had those 2 big games, but he's come back down to earth, and I think 30 fantasy points is his ceiling tonight.
I'm on Team Collison as well on that. Art Vandalay says Collison will get double-digit assist easy. Faux show. Want to thank the guests that we have today. Scott for filling in for Mike Leone. Scott is on Twitter at Sports25to-Life and also writes the DraftDay article the day before tomorrow. So go to DraftDay, click on the strategy link, and then you can find his article. You must read it every day. It definitely helps over there at DraftDay. And then Dave, who writes the Friday column for us at Laufey_D. But your last name is not, it's not Laufren, it's Loughran.
Hold on. Let me clear this up. Loughran was how it was mispronounced.
Right.
Ever since I was a kid, right?
Right.
So Laufey originated, but it is Loughran.
Right.
Just to clear that up.
Yeah, I was trying to help clear that up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were questioning where the Laufey came from, and I was just trying to, bring this to an end.
Well, there you go. So, but no, I was clearing that up, that your last name is actually Loughran with a K sound, but you go by Laufey with a F sound. So you have the K sound and the F sound.
You made that so difficult, but I think everybody gets it now.
No, you made it so, both of you made it so difficult with the underscores. Don't talk to me about difficult when both of your Twitter handles have underscores.
No, this guy's is
your
is
Twitter
even
handle
more
has
ridiculous
soccer
than-
spelled wrong. Come on.
Yeah, what does that even mean? Would you play soccer your whole life?
It originated from an AOL screen name that I got when I was 8 years old. So
God, are you kidding me?
22 years ago.
Mine was bad.
I did not think about it. I did not think that people would be calling me Soccer Dave
Soccer Dave.
when I registered for these sites. Sue me. Sorry, I didn't come up with a cool name. Like,
If I could, I would, Dave. If I could, I would.
Dave, did you register for these sites when you were 8 too?
no, it was like it's my go-to default email address that I use for all my spam
I'm
stuff.
Soccer Dave. I'm sorry, man. Mine's just as bad. Scott's is just really frustrating, and it had to happen.
It
The
did.
world would be no fun if we all had boring screen names.
You got Ian Meredith with Q2. George
Let's not even.
Q2.
Yeah. Anyone that uses the number 12 instead of an R, they have serious problems. And I've told him that before too. So it's nothing I haven't told him in his face. Stick around in the chat. Also, go play over there at our sponsor, DraftDay. We love the folks over there at DraftDay and the new games. They have the snake games going on, so that's something that you can do to spend some time. And tonight, there's lots of stuff going around the industry. Feel free to hit us up on Twitter at InsidersDFS, at SoccerDave, and then you see these 2 _ names also. So that will be it. We'll holla at ya. Have a great weekend, everybody. Know what he's doing. All right, we'll see y'all.